Cameron. I wanted to leave you some feedback on Essay 2. Um, I think that the thesis that you present um, could work. And I'll tell you what, I think the strongest parts of this essay are when you are describing the very powerful or positive learning experiences that you had. So in this leadership, you said I was part of this leadership organization and even took a class surrounding that. And it sounds like there was really two layers of learning, that you not only learned how to be a leader, but you also gained confidence in terms of redefining the standard in this specific context of what society views as quote unquote attractive, right? So it kind of feels like there's two levels of learning here. And then also with your J.C. Penney experience. The weaker parts of the essay are when you try to incorporate the sources, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. One of the things that I want you to think about is the repetition here. So you have a lot of repetition here where you're kind of like repeating the same idea in the first two sentences, and then you're doing the same thing here where you're just repeating information that you've already covered. I think this essay would read stronger if you just started, the beginning of this unit. I had to develop a basic definition of education, and I just thought it was being taught information in a school setting. Um, and you're saying it's more than that. Uh, it's developing your own ideas or beliefs on the idea. So then I think starting off with the idea that for a long time, education for you was just related to the idea of grades. And I like that you said, I never took the moment to realize that I was learning failure is okay. I would expand on that idea. So, why didn't you learn that? And how do you now learn? Do you now consider that in a new light? Like, why is it important for us to fail? And perhaps how does that grading system prevent us from really learning that lesson? I'm a little lost on your reaction to the lesson. I can see that you want to talk about um, that you have respect for elders, and how Bambara's this quote from Bambara suggests the opposite, but it really feels like you're cherry picking evidence here, meaning that you're only pulling out a tiny bit of this essay instead of really capturing what the main point of the essay is. And so that's why this section is really falling flat, right? So, one of the things that we do with evidence is we can't just cherry pick the parts that suit our purposes. What we have to do is be fair to the source by fully summarizing the overarching main idea. So, the reader really needs context as to why Sylvia is using this language and why she appears to be so disrespectful and angry. And that is a really disrespectful thing to say. I'm not really quibbling with you about that. What I'm saying is this isn't really being fair to the whole text. So avoid where you can just cherry picking one line to suit your purposes. I like that what you're posing about Gatto and how that has changed your mind. I think that I would try to answer this question because in some ways you have here. right? That you do see issues with that. So I would go back to trying to answer that. Well, we did talk about this with Partinan's essay. There was another example of how other people have other countries handle education. I would be careful, however, with where you say here that every student believes that school and education are boring. That's too broad of an assumption. Some students believe that, but not all students believe that. So you want to be careful with your wording there. Like I said, the strongest part of your essay is really these sections. What I would like you to do, if you're interested in revising, is give more examples and details on how did the teacher treat you to be leaders and think for yourselves. Because if you think about this is your thesis, right? So what specific ideas, new ideas did you learn, and how were you taught to think for yourself, both in those leadership roles and in terms of this other idea, which is you being able to identify your own standard on beauty. Same thing with customer service. I think that these are the sections that you should really draw from, right? So I think expanding these ideas by getting more specific, and then really I think that Gatto could be incorporated in another way or maybe you need to, so you could do one of two things. Like, so maybe Gatto could be incorporated when he argues for us teaching students to be leaders. It sounds like you got that here, right? So perhaps how can you incorporate Gatto into this section? And then also, and you've summarized, but what we don't really have are the new insights. So, well, who are you today, right? That's one thing that you could expand on. And given that you now have this new insight about grades, what does that now mean to you? Or what would the ideal classroom then look like, right? So you're a little shy on the page length there. So I think in some places you have some really good thinking and some really good writing going on. I think as a whole, the paragraphs don't quite connect together yet, but I think that they could get there. So I think returning to this idea and how you can reinforce that, particularly with your incorporation of the sources, and then expanding on your implications and the stronger parts of the essay, I think that will, that's what I would focus on for revision. All right, let me know if you have any questions.